All right, let's dive into the Twilight world, but we're not here to rehash Bella and Edward. We're
Great.
interested in the Volturi, right? The real power,
Yeah.
the ones that even ancient vampires answer to.
Mm.
What is it about them that makes them so fascinating and even a little bit frightening?
Well, it's their combination of age and power and honestly just the mystery surrounding them.
Oh, yeah.
So like vampire royalty,
Yeah.
enforcing laws, but always with this shroud of secrets,
Right.
a force to be reckoned with,
Definitely.
which makes them both intriguing and terrifying.
Yes. And you specifically wanted to unpack Caius.
Yes.
He's known as the cruelest of the Volturi leaders. But it's the why that's captivating, right?
Yeah.
What shaped him. Luckily, you sent over a really in-depth character analysis.
Excellent source materials.
So let's dive into that.
Yeah, right away. It highlights that Caius isn't just some brute.
Uh-huh.
He's a strategist, and his ruthlessness is rooted deep in his past.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember, he's one of the oldest vampires, meaning he lived through, like, eras of intense conflict.
Okay.
Probably wars between vampires.
Yeah. You're painting a picture of a world that would make anyone harden up.
Well, absolutely.
It's like imagining the Roman Empire, but with vampires.
Exactly.
And within that world, there's one thing that really stands out about Caius.
Mm-hmm.
This utter loathing for werewolves.
Precisely.
It's not even dislike, it's visceral hatred.
Yeah, and the analysis suggests that, it goes beyond just territorial disputes.
Right.
Werewolves were a legitimate threat, especially in those early days.
Oh, yeah.
For someone like Caius who survived by establishing control,
Mm-hmm.
they represent chaos. He can't control them.
Right.
Therefore, he has to eliminate them.
So that begs the question, is his cruelty, which everyone knows him for,
Yeah.
a calculated tactic, or is it something deeper?
It's likely both.
Okay.
The text really points to Caius's need for absolute power as stemming from fear.
Okay.
Like in a world where any vampire could be a rival, a threat to his very survival, power becomes the ultimate protection.
Right.
And cruelty then becomes a tool to maintain that power.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more he fears,
Yeah.
the more ruthless he becomes, the more enemies he creates.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about actions, is it?
No.
Even his appearance seems designed to inspire fear.
Oh, yeah.
The dark clothes, that austere expression, it's very deliberate.
Absolutely. Well, Oro uses charm and manipulation.
Right.
Caius is all about raw power.
Okay.
His entire persona is crafted to project dominance and instill fear.
That's interesting.
Even his silence is a weapon,
Whoa.
leaving others to constantly guess his thoughts and intentions.
Which makes you wonder, is that silent intensity
Yeah.
cultivated, or is that just him at his core?
Right.
I mean, the source material really contrasts him with Oro,
Oh, yeah.
who sometimes even seems playful.
Yeah, that contrast is key to understanding their dynamic within the Volturi.
Right.
Oro thrives on intrigue, the game of power. Caius sees things in black and white,
Yeah.
threat or no threat,
Uh-huh.
which makes him, in a way, predictable, but incredibly dangerous.
And that brings us to the heart of it.
Yeah.
Caius's motivations.
Mm-hmm.
The analysis points out it's not just about punishing rule breakers.
Right.
There's something deeper driving him.
Yes.
Almost a paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
What is he so afraid of?
He sees any group outside the Volturi's control as a potential threat.
Mm-hmm.
And that fear goes beyond werewolves.
Okay.
It's hybrids, it's powerful covens operating independently.
Right.
Anyone who could disrupt the order he's fought so hard to create.
Okay.
Think back to the Cullens.
Oh, he was ready to wipe them out immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas Akaya was at least curious.
Yeah.
Caius doesn't have any curiosity, does he?
Not when it comes to potential threats.
Wow.
His core belief seems to be eradicate the problem before it becomes a problem.
Right.
It's not about justice, it's about control.
So is it fair to call Caius the ultimate authoritarian figure
Absolutely.
in the Twilight universe?
He embodies all the classic traits.
Okay.
Need for control, lack of empathy, the belief in punishment as like the primary solution.
Wow.
It's interesting, the analysis even compares him to real-world dictators,
Oh, wow.
using fear to maintain order.
Right.
And what's truly chilling?
Tell me.
Caius sees compassion as weakness,
Okay.
something he, as a guardian of vampire society, can't afford.
Right.
He's completely divorced himself from anything remotely human.
Which, if we think about it,
Yeah.
is exactly what Stephenie Meyer intended with this character, right?
Mm-hmm.
He embodies that darkest potential of the Volturi,
Yes.
the reason they're so feared,
Yeah.
It's not just their power, it's that underlying threat of ruthlessness
Right.
that Caius represents.
And that's likely why readers have such divided reactions to him.
Oh, interesting.
Some find him terrifying, a true monster.
Right.
Others are fascinated by his unwavering dedication to his beliefs, however twisted they may be.
Oh.
It's like looking into the abyss and finding not emptiness, but a terrifying kind of logic.
That's a great way to put it. He's not your typical romanticized vampire.
No, not at all.
Which, speaking of comparisons,
Mm-hmm.
how would you say he stacks up against other vampires in the series? Like Edward?
Well, they're polar opposites.
Okay.
Edward struggles with his conscience,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to hold on to his humanity.
Yeah.
Caius has embraced his vampire nature completely,
Right.
abandoned any weakness.
Okay, but the real contrast is with Aro,
Yes.
because he's all about strategy and cunning,
Right.
whereas Caius is just brute force.
Not quite.
Okay.
Caius is intelligent, but his worldview is rigid,
Uh-huh.
set in stone.
All right.
Aro is adaptable, even curious.
Mm.
Caius is unwavering.
Okay.
And that makes him an incredibly formidable antagonist.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's where the analysis takes a really fascinating turn. It delves into this concept of the shadow self and uses it to analyze Caius.
Shadow self, now you've got my attention. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it's a psychological concept, really.
Okay.
Think of it as the hidden part of our personality,
Right.
where all the darker impulses reside, the aggression, the fears, the things we don't want to acknowledge about ourselves.
So like our personal boogeyman?
Yeah, in a way.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay.
But it's also a really powerful force.
Okay.
And the analysis argues that Caius embodies this shadow self,
Mm-hmm.
not just for himself, but for the entire vampire world.
So he's not just a villain. He's like a walking representation of all the bad stuff that vampires try to suppress.
He represents that unchecked aggression, the potential for violence
Right.
and tyranny that exists within any society,
Okay.
especially one with such power dynamics as the vampire world.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on the Volturi.
Yeah.
They're not just maintaining order, they're actively suppressing
Right.
these darker aspects. And Caius is the one who does the dirty work.
And by doing that dirty work, he reveals a crucial truth about power structures.
Okay.
Makes you wonder, if Caius is the shadow self, what does that say about the societies that allow figures like him to rise to power?
Are we saying that every society needs a Caius?
Mm-hmm.
To embody the darkness? Because that's a pretty bleak thought.
Well, it's not about needing a Caius.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that those tendencies, those darker impulses,
Right.
exist within any group.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, how do we deal with them?
Right.
Do we suppress them through fear and violence like Caius does?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we find a way to acknowledge and integrate them in a healthier way?
Wow, so we're not just talking about vampires anymore, are we?
No.
We're talking about how any society, even our own, grapples with these darker aspects of human nature.
Precisely. Caius is like a mirror, reflecting our own potential for cruelty and tyranny. And by understanding him, we can perhaps gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the forces that shape our world.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see why you find Caius so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about the character himself.
Okay.
It's about what he represents.
Exactly. And think about how different his approach is compared to, say, Carlyle Cullen.
Okay.
Carlyle chooses compassion,
Right.
tries to hold on to his humanity.
Yeah.
Caius sees compassion as a liability.
Which makes you wonder, is that a choice?
Right.
Or is it a product of his environment, of everything he's lived through, because he didn't start out that way?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does absolute power inevitably corrupt?
Mm-hmm.
Or was there a point where Caius could have chosen a different path?
Wow.
And if so, what does that say about the choices we make?
Right.
The potential for both good and evil that exists within us all.
I'm getting chills. This deep dive is getting intense, but it's so thought-provoking.
It is.
It's like Caius is forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths, not just about vampires, but about ourselves.
And isn't that the power of great storytelling?
Yeah.
It takes us beyond the surface and forces us to examine those complexities of human nature,
Right.
even in a world of fantasy.
Okay, so we've established that Caius is more than just a villain. He's a symbol, a mirror, a warning, all rolled into one.
He is.
But what does that mean for the story as a whole?
Right.
How crucial is he to the overall narrative of Twilight?
Well, he's essential to understanding the Volturi.
Okay.
They're not just powerful figures. They represent a system and ideology.
Right.
And Caius embodies the darkest aspects of that ideology.
He's the muscle, the enforcer.
Yes.
The one who ensures that everyone stays in line.
And by doing so, he makes the Volturi truly formidable.
Okay.
It's not just their power that inspires fear. It's the knowledge that they will not hesitate to use brute force if necessary.
Right.
Without Caius, the Volturi wouldn't have that same aura of menace.
So even though we might not like him, we have to acknowledge his role in maintaining the balance of power. Right. He's the ultimate check against any potential rebellion.
Precisely. He's a vital piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding him unlocks a deeper layer of meaning within the Twilight universe.
It's amazing how a character who's not even like the main focus can have such a profound impact on, you know, how we see the whole story.
Right.
We started out wanting to understand Caius.
Yeah.
And we ended up exploring like power and fear and the darker aspects of society.
Well, that's the mark of a well-crafted character, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
Caius isn't just there to move the plot along.
Right.
He serves a much deeper purpose.
Yeah.
Challenging us to think critically about the themes and ideas that underpin the whole Twilight Saga.
It makes you wonder, what would the vampire world even look like without Caius?
Right.
Would it be a more peaceful place, or would it just like descend into chaos without his iron fist?
That's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
Would Aro's more subtle manipulations be enough to maintain order? Or would the vampire world just fracture without Caius's ruthlessness as a deterrent?
Right. It's like that classic debate.
Yeah.
Is it better to be feared or loved as a leader?
And Caius has definitely chosen fear.
He has. He's abandoned any like pretense of compassion or mercy.
Right.
But is it really a choice, or is he just a product of his environment, a victim of his own past?
It's that age-old nature versus nurture debate.
It is.
Did Caius become this way because of the brutal world he lived in? Or was there always a darkness in him just waiting to be unleashed?
It makes me think, if he could go back knowing what he knows now, would he make different choices? Or is he just so consumed by his need for control that he wouldn't change a thing?
That's a question only Caius can answer.
Right.
But it's a fascinating thought experiment.
Yeah.
It makes us think about the idea of free will, whether even the most powerful beings are truly in control of their own destinies.
It's all very philosophical, but it really makes you think. It makes you wonder if there's a little bit of Caius in all of us.
Yeah.
That potential for darkness that we keep hidden away.
Perhaps that's why he resonates with readers on such a deep level.
Right.
He forces us to confront those shadows within ourselves.
Okay.
The parts of us that we'd rather not acknowledge.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of Caius,
yeah,
what's the one takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
Well, that Caius is more than just a villain, more than just a symbol.
Okay.
He's a challenge to our assumptions about good and evil. A reminder that even in a world of fantasy, the human heart is complex.
Right.
And often contradictory.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, by understanding the darkness within a character like Caius, we can learn to better navigate the darkness within ourselves and the world around us.
Beautifully put. The Twilight Saga may be a work of fiction.
Right.
But the questions it raises about power, morality, the nature of humanity are very real.
Yeah.
And those are questions worth pondering long after the story ends.
That's all for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the truth wherever it may lead.